So thank you to those of you who've logged on for our webinar on introducing the Mountbatten Whisperer Brailler. So Trevor in our Victorian office is going to be doing most of the presenting today. So I'll just go through my normal notes about we might, if there's background noise, we might mute the microphones during part of it, but you're more than welcome to ask questions at various points, and you can type them in the chat box at the bottom of the GoToMeeting interface, and we are recording it, so I will send that around afterwards. So, okay, so Trevor, I will just hand over to you.
Thank you.
There we go.
Just wait until, there we go. People should be able to see my screen and the webcam of the Mountbatten Brailler. Now you may find that the way it comes up as default, or it has on mine, is that the webcam is on the left and it's quite small. It's only about a fifth of the screen, and the rest is the desktop. What you can do is with the mouse slide that vertical bar to the right and the webcam photo will enlarge. So you can basically see much better image of the Mountbatten. But anyway, that's an individual thing. I can't alter it on your machine. Anyway, I just thought I'd talk a little bit about the Mountbatten. Mountbatten's been around a very long time, something like 20-something years, and it's had various and you can, it started off as just a Mountbatten Brailler, and it's become, it's had a few names, Advanced, Pro, LS Learning System, and now it's got the Mountbatten Whisperer. The Mountbatten Whisperer is Whisperer because they've changed the embossing mechanism, and it's much more quiet than it used to be. And so to give you an idea, here's the Mountbatten Whisperer here. It's got a Braille keyboard, so you've got your standard 6 Braille keys. It's got spacebar. It's a purely electronic keyboard. There's no mechanical parts to this keyboard at all. Basically, it's like a PC. When we're brailing away, it's then the computer in here is instructing the Braille head to emboss things. So in a very simple mode, it acts just like an embosser. I've just got a sheet of plain paper here. And I'm not sure whether you can hear it, but the Mountbatten also speaks. So I'm just sliding a little carriage wheel over here. There's a little rubber wheel on this side and on this side, and that simply guides the paper. So I've just dropped what they call a paper lever here, and in simple mode I can just braille away here. So it's just got the standard 6 Braille keys, a new line and a space key. So it's as simple as that, putting paper in it and brailing just like a Perkins. It speaks the letters back. I'm not sure, can you hear it speaking?
No, can't at the moment, if you want to turn that up at all. Oh, there we are. Yeah.
So that has a recorded voice. So if the student's just learning their Braille, they can braille away here and the thing actually speaks the letter as they braille it. There's 2 types of speech on this. There's synthesized speech and recorded speech. As you're brailing the letters and you're learning the letters, then recorded speech is quite useful because it is a human voice speaking the letters out loud. You can plug in headphones if you need to, if you like to. And the recorded speech is synthesized. So, sorry, the synthesized speech will generate letters, words, sentences, whatever's needed at the time. So that's a big advantage when students start to learn their contractions. So they might actually braille a B, but it will say but. C, can, D, do. So it says the contractions. So again, it's very useful for students who are learning those contractions. And there's actually a training scheme inside the Mountbatten to allow you to do that. Basically, it's a box. It has takes standard Braille paper if you want. I'll just put in my A4 page widthwise. So it takes a standard Braille page, 11 by 11.5 paper. as I put paper in, and you'll see the print head moving there, it's actually just measuring the width of the paper to see how many cells it can put in there. You have a wheel here that I can just roll, and that's the only sort of physical one that affects the paper, and that'll simply move the paper up and down. On-off switches down just here underneath the lip here, and just under here is the volume control as well. There's a carry handle, so if you want to carry it around, you can do that. It has various other connections. The power connection is right around the corner here. And there's a headphone connection up the back, just here. So power's here, headphones are here. On the other end of the device is a USB port. I'll show you that shortly. But basically, the Mountbatten starts off for many students as a learning tool, as they learn their Braille and understand Braille, and it's simply producing Braille as a Perkins would. It has a couple of additional features. They can be simple things like correction. So if I Braille an L, but I really meant, say, an A, there is a backspace key here, which is this one on the extreme left, and I just do the key I want, and it will now correct that and put the corrected cell in there. It also has other sorts of things like inside the Mountbatten. Using this command key, I can actually ask the Mountbatten, for example, to switch on the Braille Editor. And basically that's a talking word processor. So again, if students want to learn, it's a very simple learning tool for talking word processors. So you can start off in a very simple fashion in brailing sentences and then reviewing what's there by speech. And it also has a very simple methodology of saving and retrieving files. So again, as students start out in that, they may not have any computer experience, you can start that learning process just by simple commands like begin and end. And that will then tell you, you can then save files, remove files, reprint files, list files, all that sort of thing with simple commands with the Mountbatten. Also, if you've got any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them as we go along rather than trying to review it later, although we'll have questions at the end. But if you have any questions about how it's worked, or for example, a lot of people say, how long do the batteries last? And the batteries do last about 20 to 30 pages. It depends a little bit on whether you're using plain paper or Braille paper. So for some students that might be a week, for others it might be a couple of days, but the battery in here is quite powerful and can last for quite a while. There are other things it does, like for example, it's a great little train to involve kids. This has two music modes, and one music mode is simply you can play this like a piano. So you can play simple tunes on this, and you can go up and down octaves with these two keys. So that can be quite a good and engaging tool for some young students, or it's a full Braille music notation editor as well. So there's quite a lot of things that are hidden with the Mountbatten. It's all a matter of whether you know, if they're appropriate in a particular age and stage. Also in the Mountbatten, if anybody's familiar with Duxbury, and Duxbury is a tool to translate text into Braille. Inside the Mountbatten is a similar program. It's not Duxbury, it's something that was written for the Mountbatten, and what it does is it translates text into Braille. And that can be very useful in a high school or primary, for example, to simply translate text that you might type. So as an example of this, I've got basically it's a QWERTY keyboard, and it's plugged into the back of the Mountbatten. And in doing this, I can now just type on this. Oops. So I can correct that. So by simply typing here, I can then produce that in Braille on my page immediately. You can, in this stage, the way I'm doing it now, it's simply letter for letter. So as I type, it's just bringing it. So this is a nice day. And I've got that in Braille. If I wanted to produce that same sentence but with contractions, then I have to give it a command. So FE means simply translate this and emboss it out. So now, oops. So that's now translated that into grade 2 Braille and embossed it out. So that's sort of a very straightforward, simple tool that I could use basically anywhere, and it just translates the text that I type into Braille. These devices are very much used in schools. There's a great many in, I know, Victorian schools and WA, New South Wales. There's quite a number in Darwin, for example. And a lot of students have learnt their Braille on this, but then the next stage is to, say for a provider, is to be able to produce Braille using the Mountbatten. And there's three tools basically that allow you to do that. One of them is a way of connecting the Mountbatten to a PC. And that's using a program called MB Comms. And what I'll do is, and it's this program here. Just while we're on that, there's a website called mountbattenbrailler.com. And if you want to send either Rebecca or myself an email, I've got a list of web-based resources basically for that. It's Mountbatten Brailler main pages. So the main one is mountbattenbrailler.com. It's got a whole lot of links to YouTube and other training materials. And it's also got all of the downloads. I might actually take you there now so we can see it. No idea why it's not coming up. We'll try it. Okay, there it is now. This is the Harpo website, and this is an absolute winner as a source of information. It's got all of the background info. There's on the Mountbatten Whisperer and the Brailler. And up the top here are some really good, like these resources down here. If we go down to downloads, and so here you've got all the manuals, and they're pretty useful, but also here's all the downloads for all of the software. So here's the connection or the software for the Mac operating system. Here's MB Comms, which we'll look at in a moment. And down the bottom here is quite a lot of resources in terms of either basically the videos. They're all relatively short, between 2 and 5 minutes, and they go through all of the functions of the Mountbatten. So you can just do those at your own in your own time. The other one, which is up here, which is support videos, and these are again pretty short, sweet videos, and they just run through the basics of the Mountbatten, like how to store a file in memory and how to reprint it. There's some how to do Braille graphics. Further down here is setting the date and time, and further down here it's the two-way communication, and that's both for an iPad and for the MB comms for a Windows machine. So the resources there are very good. And as I said, there's if you want a copy of this sheet, there's also quite a lot of very useful and up-to-date YouTube videos as well. So if I want to do MB comms, there's I've just got this USB and I'll plug that into the Mountbatten. One of the big things is the Mountbatten was designed to be used, obviously, for people who are vision impaired, so it gives a lot of really wonderful audible hints. Like, for example, it's when I plug the USB in, if I've loaded the drivers and basically the computer is right, it says USB connected. If it says that and you've just installed it, the drivers can go in well. The only interesting thing, or one of the things is with this, is sometimes when you install MB comms to connect it to a PC, the drivers themselves can take a minute or two to load, and there's actually two sets. So it's just a matter of waiting for that to happen. But if I want to produce material, this is MB comms. Sorry, I can't make it any larger, but there's a little tab here called Connect Mountbatten, and it comes up with Mountbatten USB. Click OK and continue. And there are some what I call happy beeps. And happy beeps are really important because if you get one along the way that just goes, well, something's gone wrong. But in this case, the happy beeps mean that we've now got this connected. So I can do some really useful things with this. For example, if I was a support person, I can, for example, have a look at if the student saved any files into memory. I can have a look at those files. I can see what they've been doing. In this case, here's Africa, so there's different files. There's diaries, one that is a permanent file. Its diary is simply a program within the Mountbatten that the student can have a running diary. So it knows the date and time, and you can use that to diarise information, set homework, set whatever you like. In this case, I can see that they've saved a file called Africa, and we can have a look at that. But there's also things like I can emboss a file on the Mountbatten. So I've been browsing the web and I'd got some information for the student and I wanted to emboss this out. I simply come here, I select emboss file in Mountbatten. It says OK, and I've simply set aside a document in a Mountbatten folder. And here's my Africa. And this is just a line, but it could be so there's my Braille, which is the text. So in this case where I go emboss file on Mountbatten, I can actually, there's a trick here, if I right click, I can actually open that file and have a look at it first. You'll see here I've got in curly brackets an FE. I'll make this maybe a little bit easier to see. Okay, so here's our file. Inside curly brackets, again, this is a command to forward emboss. I want to change this from text into Braille. And I want it, the E stands for emboss, so it will immediately be embossed out on the Mountbatten. This could be anything. This is just a standard notepad file, so I can cut and paste off the internet, scan something in, type something up, whatever I like. There's a few commands if you want to get into Braille production. There's commands here. The very simple ones are FE is forward emboss. If I don't want contractions, there's forward grade 1. Or if I want to lay it out in a very particular way, I can do another one, which is flit. And this says lay it out on the Braille page literally as it is on the print page. But probably with those 3 commands you can produce Braille very effectively and at the level that's needed. So embossing on these sorts of things is pretty straightforward. I think the other thing I can do, which is chat mode. Chat mode is something that is useful, and I can engage with a young student, but also so what happens with that is that the text immediately comes up on the page as a student's brailing it. And so that gives me a one-to-one link so that I can know what's happening with the student as they're brailing, and I can watch this live. The drawback is that I've got to have my USB cable connected to a PC, which can be a bit of a drag. So the next one is this particular Bluetooth one. This particular one is Bluetooth, so I can show you in a minute connected to an iPad. But basically there's chat mode. I can also, with the student, I can also emboss out just by typing on my computer keyboard and having a conversation in this way. Tools, basically I can also, for example, send the text file to the Mountbatten and store it in the memory and have them have a look at this file. There's various educational functions I can do with this, where I might ask the student to find a file in here, call it up, answer some questions, save it again, or emboss it out. So there's lots of those types of activities centered around this. So what I've done there is simply exited the MB comms on the computer and removed that USB cable. And there's 2 other ways of accessing a Mountbatten externally from either. There's one on one of them's on a standard phone with a system, or I can do it on an iPad. So I'll just slide this over here, which is, here you go. So that's my iPad, and down on the bottom line there's one called a Mimic. And the Mimic app is a free app. Both of all of these apps that we've had a look at so far are all free just to download. The Mimic one allows us to talk to the Mountbatten via the Bluetooth. So if I just click on that, and it brings up users. So I can just down the bottom here press on the Mountbatten and then top right connect, and this is now searching for Bluetooth devices. And there's my Mount Brailer with the serial number. So I picked that one. These 2, if you hear the tones, these 2 are now chatting away, establishing communications. It says connected. Hit done. So now I've got with this, it's a similar type of design to the previous one we just looked at, but it has some extra things. So now a typical use for this, I know for a number of teachers, they just have this running on their iPad in the background while the student's using their Mountbatten, and they can see what the student's been doing. So I can have a whiteboard. If I just switch whiteboard on, what happens now is, so as the student works, brailles away on this, it simply comes up word for word on the
Okay.
with abbreviations. So as I use abbreviations on my Mountbatten, I can they will come up as full words on my iPad. There's I can work in chat mode. Chat mode is that I can actually have a chat here. And in the same way, the student can braille back and have a conversation with this. If I go to users, or that's archived users, but users, here we go, my information here. And now I have a simple area that I can again browse the web, create files, do whatever I need to do, and simply emboss them out on the Mountbatten. And again, I can use my web browser on the iPad. I can use a text editor. So I can use anything at all, just like the Windows PC, to create the file, and then just simply have it here and send it off to the Mountbatten to be embossed out. So there's lots of really useful. I can also gather files from the Mountbatten. I can have a look at what the student's been doing. This is why the original, when I mentioned you can save files, like simply command BEGIN file name, I can create files in the Mountbatten. So anything that's created in the Mountbatten, I can then have a look at with one or a couple of these sorts of programs. There are, again, a lot very informative vids and YouTube sessions, and they're basically, the first level of them is just through that Mountbatten Brailler website, or I did a search and there's hundreds of training sessions on the Mountbatten and also on the iPad to basically run through all of the features. So just, are there any questions on that? How are we going?
Any questions, anybody?
I can't.
Well,
Surely trying to ask something, I think.
I give it.
Sorry, Shirley, are you trying to ask a question? I can't hear you. Are you maybe able to type it to us in the box?
No, sure. Here we go. What is the capacity of the Briley? It's a lot. It's something like 512K or something. That doesn't sound much in computer terms, but you've got to remember it's in Braille file capacity. So that's thousands of Braille pages. So yeah, the memory is quite sufficient for anything that somebody's doing. It equates to thousands of Braille pages, and yes, if it's not possible to create it, but you can certainly store material, like you can easily copy material out of the Mountbatten into either an iPad or the PC. There's a whole other, there's a whole other session we could do on how to engage kids and how to use this within the curriculum. Definitely, but the mechanics of it are, now we've got the iPad version and we've got an updated MB Comms version. the sort of resources you can get there are really good.
Yeah, and just to clarify, the app is available for Android as well now, as well as iPad, so it will work on Android devices like an Android phone. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything? And I can email around the link to mountbattenbrailler.com so that everybody's got that. And older Mountbattens can, or beyond a certain age, can be upgraded to the new Bluetooth version as well, and all the new ones come with the Bluetooth option. So
yeah, all of the Whisperers have the Bluetooth. Yep.
All the Whisperers,
depends on on the older version of the Mountbatten. Sometimes they need a software upgrade as well. Yeah, just let us know, and we can easily look into that to see whether it's a little pack that simply screws onto the back of the Mountbatten.
Yeah.
And that's the Bluetooth connector.
Yeah. So, any other questions, or did you have anything else, Trevor, you wanted to tell people?
If anybody has any, I'm happy to run sort of one-to-one sessions if you like, 5 minutes or whatever's needed. So if you have somebody at a student or level, or if you have somebody who needs training on how to emboss or whatever it is, just basically give us a call, and we can, I've done this quite a bit, where we just start a go-to meeting and just spend 5 or 10 minutes just running through whatever questions you might have, so that's easy. I'm just reading some questions here. So yeah, look, just give us a yell, basically. I can, again, as mentioned before, I've got a page here. I can just send you all the links for the resources if you'd like. Just a matter of getting in touch with Beck or myself.
Yeah. Oh, and we did have another question. So when you typed earlier, the Brailler converted the text to grade 2 Braille. Is that a setting you choose, or is it a default setting?
Okay, the default, it depends how you do it. The default setting is just literally computer Braille. It's just 1-for-1. The problem with that is that your punctuation, like the letters are correct, but your punctuation is incorrect. So if you wanted Braille with no contractions, then you do that FE and FGR1, and that says also all the punctuation will be correct, full stops, etc., but there will be no contractions in your document. If you just give it an FE forward emboss, then by default that includes contractions and punctuation.
Okay.
And obviously UEB and the Australian Braille Code layout.
Yep. Yes. Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Well, okay. If nobody's got any other questions, that might be it for today. So I will just take that back. Thank you, Trevor.
No worries. Thanks for your time.
Okay, I'll just take this back. So thank you everybody for your time today. If any of you do want a sort of in-person demonstration of the Mountbatten, or have any other questions that you think of afterwards, then by all means contact us on 1300 883 853 or info@quantumrv.com.au. And as Trevor says, we can always do individual sessions. So thank you for joining us, and I'll send around the recording as well if anybody wants that. Okay.
Beauty. Thanks, Beck.
Okay, thanks, Trevor.
Bye.